Call the regular council meeting for today, Monday, August 17th, to order. I'd ask at this time if we could stand and state the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, to make this meeting official, I need to establish a quorum. I'd ask at this time if Clerk Spencer would please call the roll.
Gutenkopf. Here. Pezza. Here. Shea. Here. Leader.
Here.
Rose. Absent. Graham.
Here.
Kipskin.
Here.
York.
Here.
Nybo.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Morley.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner. Here. Wagner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We officially have a quorum. At this time, I would go to item number 3 on our agenda and ask if there are any written communications or petitions from the public. At this time, if there are any, if you'd like to submit those to our city clerk here up in front, there will be written communications, petitions, etc. At this time, you can go ahead and submit those to our clerk. Seeing, looks like there's no petitions or written communications, I will next go to the public forum section of our meeting, which we can talk about. Any citizen could talk about anything regarding Elmhurst, Elmhurst City services, etc. We have a special guest in the audience, and I'd like to call up Mr. John Jevitz and Olympic hopeful Jesse Beckton to the podium, or to the, you can either go to the mic or to the podium, John, to introduce a special guest. Podium right up in front might be a little bit better, given that you got a special guy here. And John Jevitz, a great guy that helps a lot of our athletes locally, good civic-minded person, and another gentleman that may be representing the United States here shortly. Thank you, John.
We're just here just to say thank you to the City of Elmhurst. A year ago, I met Jesse at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and he's from Chicago. Obviously, Olympic hopeful for the bobsled, great guy. And so I said, Jesse, how about you come out to Elmhurst? This guy has done more in 3 or 4 days than last year out in Elmhurst than so many people have done. He's fantastic, but the city of Elmhurst, he just finished talking to the Eagles 20 minutes ago. He was on Dan Cronin's show earlier. He's talked with the grade schools, the high school kids, Rotary, Lions, everything. It's been such a pleasure having this guy, but not only has it been a pleasure having him, the city of Elmhurst has been phenomenal in taking care of him. That all starts from the top on down. So I wanted to thank the city of Elmhurst, and he has a master's, he stopped being a city planner to kind of pursue his dreams to make it in the next Olympics. So I'm hoping he has a shot at. Jesse wanted to say a few words. Thank you very much, and great job to the City of Elmhurst.
Thanks, Dr. J. Come on up, Jess.
Good evening, everyone. Like Dr. Jevitz said, I'm a city planner, so I've been in a few of these sessions once or twice. So I know how they kind of go and how sometimes people, the job is kind of thankless at times, dealing with a lot of things go on in the public sector and things like that. So, Mayor DeCiani, thanks for having me here. Jim, thanks for inviting me out. Just want to say a couple things. Since I've gotten here to Elmhurst, dealing with Dr. Jevitz, I've been blessed to represent the United States on the USA bobsled team, and also have an opportunity that Elmhurst has actually embraced me as kind of its wayward son, should I say. And I kind of wanted to kind of thank a lot of some of the people that's helped me out. Personally, I'd like to thank the ICI and the Bronji family, who's been one of my major sponsors, who've actually been able to pay for a lot of my trips, traveling for my competitions to represent the United States. Also, Senator Dan Cronin, Courts Plus, and Brian McDermott's Elmhurst Morning Rotary, the Elmhurst Noon Rotary, and Cliff and Mariana Gorski, Elmhurst Lions Club with Rich Richard, Community Bank of Elmhurst, the community, also Bill Gooch and Nancy Brooks with the Community Bank of Elmhurst, Chris Dvorak, and the 4th graders out there. I had a great time with those kids, talked to them about bobsled and talked to them a little bit about health and education and how important that is, and also about having a good diet, as Jim can tell you that I have. Kind of a little side joke there. Also, Tricia Hobbs and the grade schools at the 4th grade schools at Hawthorne School, IC High School football team, Coach Alberts and Coach Cronin out there, the York High Schools, the women's tennis team, Coach Williams and Coach Hyman. These are all people I've actually had a privilege to speak to and talk to them and kind of relate some of my stories with them as far as what it is they're trying to do and the goals they're trying to reach, and to keep kind of striving to be their best. Also, Francesca's restaurant, they've helped me out a lot. The fire department, I got to talk to those guys last time I was here in Elmhurst, and they kind of showed me around the around the fire department and the firehouse, and he had a couple good jokes for me here and there, so that was pretty fun. I actually helped them play a joke with one of their guys. One of the guys had made some, he had some little baking skills, so any guy that bakes, you know, we kind of give them rouse them up a little bit for baking cupcakes for the fellas. So it was pretty fun. And I just want to tell you guys that, I mean, I love your city. You have a really nice city going on. You have some really genuine people that I've been able to be in contact with. And I've come across a lot of people in the world throughout my travels. So I think I've become a self-proclaimed expert of dealing with people that are really legit and honest. And when I look in their eyes and talk to a man-to-man or woman-to-man, I see a lot of honesty in the people in Elmhurst. So I want to say thank you all for welcoming me here, and I wish you all the best in everything that you all pursue. So thank you.
Jesse, why don't you come up and do us a favor and shake our hands. We feel privileged to have a national USA bobsledder in front of us, hopeful Olympian, and we appreciate you coming out and spending time with us in here in Elmhurst.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jesse. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Yeah, congratulations. Good luck.
Good luck.
Bring it home, buddy. Congrats.
Bring home the gold. Make us proud. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
Oh, anytime.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
And thanks to Dr. Jevitz for always surrounding ourselves with talent and good people. Expect nothing but the best from Dr. J back there, so thanks, Doc J.
Thanks, Jesse. You just have to come back after you win the gold medal.
Yeah, we want to... I have a proclamation waiting for you when you win the gold, so come on back. Okay. Anybody else for public comment? At this time, you'd have, Miss, please state your name and your address when you get to the microphone up on your right, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak about any issue regarding Elmhurst. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Roseanne Zuccaro, and I live at 487 Mitchell Avenue. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My husband and I have lived in Elmhurst for 22 years now. We have 3 teenagers. We chose Elmhurst many years ago to be the place to raise our family because we thought it was a safe, quaint, and friendly town with great schools. To be honest, we kind of thought it was a lot like Mayberry, a perfect town to raise a family. I'm currently a second-grade teacher in a nearby community, and I've taught an array of grade levels, ranging from preschool through 8th grade. During my children's early childhood years, I was a full-time stay-at-home mother, and my family participated in many of the wonderful community programs that are available to young children and their families. My children participated in the various library programs, park district classes, music and dance classes, organized sports, and they even attended local church programs and summer camps. Over the years, Elmhurst has changed in many positive ways. We have a new library, great restaurants, wine bars, and a great big fire station. All great investments and additions to our community. Our children have also changed, and they have grown from tots to teens, and their interests and abilities have expanded. Now a new generation of families enjoys the wonderful amenities that are available to young children in our community. As the children become teenagers, though, their interests, abilities, and creativity blossom, and they're ready for new challenges and more creative independence. And boys especially need as many influential male role models as possible in their lives. While Elmhurst is providing some programs and activities that some of our Elmhurst teens participate in, many more of our teens could be reached and empowered by building on community relationships and partnerships through establishing Youth Engagement Task Force, which is run and led by teens. Many other communities are forging such progressive community-based organizations in their communities as they realize how important and instrumental these programs are in most communities to help nurture, guide, and encourage more positive and active teen participation. A youth engagement force is an example of a progressive and best practice model approach which provides for successful collaboration amongst schools, churches, local businesses, along with teens, families, and the other community stakeholders. Such initiatives are also proven to be more effective in helping to guide, nurture, and support more of the youth and their families who are raising teens. Successful task force also provide the great range of youth that I feel we need to reach out to in our community. And these might even be the kids that we see crossing the streets haphazardly uptown all week long, just hanging by the fountain and looking for something cool to do and to socialize with friends, which is what their parents are able to do at the wine bars. As well as providing teens with more active participation and leadership opportunities. These task forces also provide various community service and work opportunities that are meaningful to the kids, in which they have a choice and a vested interest.
Mrs.
So-
O'Carroll, if you could wrap it up in about 10, 20 seconds, that would be great, but I love what you're talking about.
I'm
so
sorry.
It's awesome. Thank you.
I'm almost done.
It's okay.
Today I am here asking you, our great mayor that I have great hopes for and the rest of our community does, to share in this vision that so many parents raising teenagers share in, and we are concerned about, and we hope that you are willing to make the commitment and that we are willing to make and participate in any way we can to help our Elmhurst youths survive the teen years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Zucchero. What was your address again, real quick? I just want to, because I want to get in contact with you.
487 Mitchell.
47 Mitchell. Great suggestions, and we appreciate it. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Sure. Anybody else? Gentleman down here in the front? If you could just state your name and address, and then you'd have 3 minutes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Robert Fisher, Fischer, 586 North Van Auken in Elmhurst. I want to explain a new word that came into my English language lately. It's called corruption. What is corruption? Corruption to me is I don't have the money to pay a state representative or somebody in politics to get my kids in college. That's corruption. Corruption to me is a senator or a congresswoman who has a grandson arrested for smoking dope. She goes back to the Senate House and gets a law passed with everybody's cooperation to make it legal. That's corruption. Corruption to me is a judge, a person that knows the law, lets a big, beefy police officer beat up a little lady in a tavern and let him go. That's the law. That's corruption. Corruption to me is the state of Illinois not letting the taxpayers that pay their salaries vote on a senator. That's corruption. I don't understand it. Corruption. Where does corruption come from? In 1950, maybe you people weren't here, but the United States government put a penny tax, temporary, on a pack of cigarettes. 59 years later, for the Korean War, we're still paying that special tax, temporary, on a pack of cigarettes. Go ahead and look. Surprise, yes. Corruption. What is corruption to me? I got my electric bill. The state tax, the corruption tax, is $1.42. The municipal tax of Elmhurst that I gotta pay to this building is $2.41. Please, don't raise our taxes. You got plenty of money to play around with. Cut our taxes so that honest people that live in Elmhurst, that have been here 40 years, can stay in Elmhurst. Don't force us out, because all you're going to get in Elmhurst is people Section 8 or Fannie Mae people that have no money, and you're not going to make any money off of them. Please, cut my taxes, stop the corrupt... What is that word? Corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for a public forum at this time? Okay. Seeing none, I will then go on to the next part of our agenda, which is the consent agenda. At this time, is there anybody that would like anything removed from the consent agenda? Or would possibly wish to vote no? Alderman Wagner?
Item E.
Item E. All righty. Alderman Shea?
Yes, letter C.
C. Okay. And Alderman Gutenkopf?
Item I.
Item I. And anybody else? Okay. So we are basically going, I'd ask for a motion to accept the contents of our consent agenda minus items C, E, and I. Okay, Alderman York, second from Alderman Gutenkopf. And at this time, I'd ask for, can I do this by yes vote again?
Roll call.
Roll call vote, please. Ask our clerk, Spencer, to call the roll, please.
York.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Peasant.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose, absent. Bram.
Aye.
Hipskin.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The motion for the consent agenda minus items C, E, and I passes. Now I'll go to the first item, which was item C, which was pulled from Alderman Shea.
Yes. Actually, for the accounts payable on page 17, at the bottom of the page, for the vendor's name is Kavisa, Spiroff, and Gossler. I want to address the legal fees that we're still paying to this, the ex-city attorney. On May 11th, we voted in a brand-new city attorney, Mr. Storino, and he is doing a wonderful job. At that time, we were told that the prior city attorney would be just finishing up 2 or 3 pending items. But then on June 15th, I noticed that we had paid Mr. Kabisa's firm over $43,000. Then I called the city and I inquired about the $43,000, about this issue to the city, and they implied that this would be over by around July 1st, by July. And then now I'm looking at the date, August 17th, and I was going back and looking at the dollar amounts, and I only went back as far as June, but since June till now, we have paid Mr. Kabisa's firm over $97,000, whereas we've paid the new city attorney $69,000. We're paying like we have 2 full-time attorneys. There's no reason to pay for two law firms to do the work for the city, especially in these economic times, especially when we've read in the paper that we could be raising property taxes up to 12%. I would like to get this rectified. I would like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable minus the invoice number 0000331, vendor Kabisa Spiroff Gossler, until further review by the city attorney, city manager, and the mayor.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I have a second on that? And then we'll go to discussion on this item. So Alderman Gutenkopf seconds that motion to remove that particular line item from the accounts payable. At this time, do we have discussion on that particular item? Alderman Nybo?
Well, I would ask a question to the city attorney. First of all, is this appropriate for discussion in an open meeting? Is the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, does the city attorney concur with the motion? Would he recommend supporting the motion?
The first one is easy. We can discuss that in open session. It's probably most appropriate discussed in open session. But I can't speak to the second. I can only say that, as most of the council knows, there was a transition period that went on. Everybody pretty much agreed, I think, and understood that there were issues that the old law firm was going to continue doing because that was the most efficient and effective way to do it. And they ongoing are handling matters in litigation for the city, and there's been no interruption in that. There's a number of maybe, it might be now down to about 4 matters that they might still be handling, and at the beginning there were maybe double that, maybe 8 matters. So I did talk to Alderman Shea earlier today. The understanding was, by way of example, something like Gladys Avenue, the special assessment, would be continued to be handled by the old law firm because they had done most of the work and background work, and it just didn't seem to make good, cost-effective sense for us to get involved and work on that matter. I think that's about all I can really say in terms of.
City Manager Borcher.
I would offer that the accounts payable is reviewed by the city management team through a process prior to them going to the finance staff and then to the manager's office for approval. The invoice has been vetted in that regard, as Attorney Storino has generally stated. There is a transition from the old provider of legal services to the new provider of legal services. This $26,000, $8,800 is for the Churchville Schoolhouse annexation, another almost $3,000 for the Athar property situation we've talked about earlier, and then DUI prosecutions, is that rolled out from the old to the new, is $5,400. So almost 3/4 of this invoice are for those 3 cases, and there's a lot of other items. It's all documented, and I understand Alderman Shea's point. We need to move on. We are moving on, but it's the way municipal business is transacted relative to legal services. The files, I think, are best done, wrapped up by the attorney that started them in many cases, and that's what is rolling forward.
Very good. And there was an agreement for transition. So, I think we wanted a nice smooth handoff as well, too. So, but at the same time, this definitely needs to come to an end eventually. So that's what I think Alderman Shea is trying to get at. But looks like everything's documented, everything's in good order. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you, Mayor. I've said this before, and I will say it again. Mayor DeCiani, you know how much I personally appreciate what you did as a new mayor for the city of Elmhurst and the citizens of Elmhurst. I think you did your due diligence in finding a stellar new city attorney, not only qualification-wise, but as you stated, your concern was also the dollars. And I appreciate and respect what you did for Elmhurst in that regard. And I guess I look at this and find it a bit disrespectful that someone who was supposed to do some odds and ends items, obviously we all understood that. I kind of look at this, I feel as a taxpayer, as if I'm not sitting up here, if I were sitting at home watching on television. I don't think this is fair. I look at it from May 18th. I did some homework on this, and since May 18th, I believe my total we have paid to this firm is $158,000. I think that's outrageous. I think it's very disrespectful to what we're trying to do here, to what you tried to do for the community. And I would just like to say I would like to see this end soon, and if there are items that need to be wrapped up, let's get those wrapped up. We have a very well-qualified city attorney here who can handle any of these other items, and I would like to see that happen.
Thank you, Alderman Pezza, and I appreciate the kind words. And out of respect for our previous city attorney, these fees, according to our city staff, are normal and customary. They're documented. And Mr. Kubisa, we had an agreement to get this transition handed off smoothly. So with due respect to our previous city attorney, he's done a fine job in that transition. And as mayor and overseer, this will eventually come to an end. But at the same time, he's due his dollars as well too. I think as mayor too. So as a try to be a fair, balanced person here, looking over this whole situation, I think he's due his pay. So, Alderman Shea.
Yes. Well, also some questions are, there's work that has been done on the Leach Taco agreement, TIF 1, the Thar property. I thought that was our new attorney would be taking care of that.
In fairness, on the Athar property, there's been some overlap, appropriately, I think, between Mr. Kubisa's firm and our firm in the handing off of responsibilities there. There's no question but that he has had, that firm has had an active role in the Athar matter.
Alderman Mulliner, and I'll go to Alderman Leader.
Yeah, I go back to this discussion that we had, and what we agreed to do was allow Kubisa's firm to continue and finish these projects. And I think that logically anybody would know that there's going to be overlap and there's going to be additional costs during a transitional period. Once that period's over, though, I would believe that the cost should be coming to equal to what we were paying in the past. I don't believe that it's going to be less. But I do believe that there's going to be additional costs while we do a transition, because there's things that are definitely going to overlap. There's times when both attorneys have to be working on certain projects, and if we have the documentation, as we've been told by the city manager, that we have the documentation, Kubisa's firm is due the money, so I cannot support the motion that's on the floor right now.
Alderman Leader.
As I understand this, this is not double dipping or anything like that. If Spiroff and Kubisa had not done this work, then of course Mr. Storino would have done it. And as we found out when Mr. Storino first came before us, his rates were approximately the same as Kubisa's Spiroff. So whatever was done by them, if it hadn't been done by them, would have been done by Mr. Storino. And he would have done it fine. I mean, I agree with Alderman Pez's praise of Mr. Storino. All I'm saying is that there isn't any money wasted here. There isn't an extra penny spent here. What Spiroff and Kubisa did would have been done by the firm, Mr. Storino's firm. So what's the big deal here? Also, as we negotiated with Spiroff and Kubisa at the time of the transition, again, doesn't the word of the city of Elmhurst mean anything? I don't see any, with all due respects, I don't see any outrage here. I agree that this should be brought to an orderly conclusion. But all of the items that we're looking at are things that were being worked on prior to Mr. Storino. And the fact remains that Kubisa and Spiroff were on the ground here. They had the experience, they were in the middle of these things, and as Mr. Storino said, let them finish. We're not going to save any more or less money. They have the particular knowledge for these cases. And so Mr. Storino, and I thought it was very nice of Mr. Storino to say, go ahead, I'm not trying to hurt anybody here, nor was the city trying to hurt anybody here. And I thought it was handled in a very nice way. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't costing us 1 penny more. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, Alderman Leader. Alderman Moore, then I'll go to Alderman Gutenkopf.
I can't support this motion. I haven't heard anything substantive besides, geez, it's a lot of money, I don't want to pay it. We gave City Manager Borchert and City Attorney Storino the flexibility to transition in a manner that they felt would be best and most cost-effective. It's going to come to an end. We're bordering on an accusation here. Is there an accusation that Kubisa is overbilling the city? Because I don't see it. And if it was, I would expect the city manager to bring it to our attention. Other than that, we need to pay our bills. What's the problem here? I don't understand. It's arbitrary to say, well, geez, that's a lot of money. I can't support it. I think we need to pay our bills.
Thanks, Alderman Morley. Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, perhaps I'll start with Alderman Morey's last comments first. In fact, I've reviewed the itemized billing from Attorney Kubisa's office, and I can definitively state that I believe, based on his itemized billing, that we are overpaying. I believe that the $200 an hour he's charging us is excessive. I believe that the retainer, we continued to pay him in June
and July, in addition to the hourly billing, the retainer that we continue, no, let me say that again. We paid the man a retainer after he was released from service as the city attorney. The retainer should have bought us a certain amount of consulting hours. He did not subtract his retainer in previous months from the hourly billing he charged us. When we move into the bills that we're approving now, which are for work that was done in July, we have hourly fees. In some cases, he's charging us $200 an hour to speak with a consultant who's also charging us $100 an hour for the same phone call. I find this perhaps not in the best financial interest of the city. So I have a couple of questions. First, I'd like to know, and I'd like to get through these questions and then perhaps we can address them one at a time. First, I'd like to know if we're going to see August billing from this firm, and if so, I'd like to know exactly what projects they're working on. I'd like to know if our current city attorney has consulted with this firm on these projects, and if there has been a specific discussion about who's working on what, because we've made a few assumptions. We've assumed here that our current attorney is aware of what these projects are, that our current attorney would charge us exactly the same amount for doing this. Now, we have a different kind of a deal with our current attorney, and one that was intended to be financially beneficial for the city of Elmhurst. So I think we need to know this moving forward. And I'd like to know, of these open projects, how much longer they're going to be open, because that'll give us some sense of how much longer we're going to be paying these fees and how much more it's going to cost us.
Thank you, Alderman Gutenkauf. Anybody else?
Well, perhaps the city attorney would like to answer some of those questions.
As I said, many of these items have actually been settled and resolved, compromised, and so I'm saying half, but at least half of the matters in litigation have been resolved. I would say the vast majority of the transactional matters, i.e., things like Gladys Avenue, have been concluded and are over. So my opinion is that most of these issues have either wound down or have completely expired, so that there probably is very little additional work that is responsible to the old attorney, except there are a few matters in current litigation, approximately 4, that ongoing, the understanding would be that the old village attorney would handle them. They had some history, they had some institutional knowledge about those cases, that the most effective way and efficient way, and frankly, they were serving the city well in those capacities, and that they would continue to do that on those cases. I would think that all the other matters, all the transactional matters that they were working on, will be either wound down or concluded by within the next 30 days, if they haven't virtually concluded now.
Thank you, City Attorney Serino. Alderman York.
I guess a question regarding the retainer. A retainer isn't just money that's not paid for anything. Isn't it like it always was before, where we paid the retainer and then the hours that were used were offset against that?
It's supposed to be.
So I guess I'm assuming that's still the way that we're doing it. Is that a safe assumption, or do we need to clarify that as well? I mean, I'm assuming we're getting value for the retainer, that it's not just a retainer, that the hours aren't being offset against it.
City Attorney, our City Manager Borchard.
Yeah, the retainer was for a certain amount of hours, and I will do my best to, and we've actually indicated we would be doing a analysis and a summary of the transition. One retainer went away, a new retainer came on, and subsequent work was done and is being done on an hourly basis. But I'll prepare a memorandum to reconcile that. I think it's appropriate for the City Council to be concerned that they get what they should get, which is services for every hour of billing. I believe that is the case. We'll summarize that, and certainly it's my intent, and as Mr. Storino has indicated, His intent is to do his job, and he's doing that, doing a fine job. And the transition is, the biggest item is the one-room schoolhouse annexation issues with Bensonville. Understanding the concerns, we'll transfer that to Mr. Storino's office. I think it's at a point where it's almost over, but we could finish it up. We'll do our darndest to turn off all of the ongoing work from the old firm so that it's consistently just one attorney's office offering up billings going forward. And for the period of time where both firms have been doing some work, we'll do a reconciling statement.
Thank you. Alderman Nybo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, there's some pretty serious questions that have been asked, and at least in my opinion, not fully answered tonight. As I understand the motion, and I guess as I would encourage others to view it, it's essentially asking that we defer payment of this for 2 weeks to get some of these questions answered, such as what is the retainer actually being applied to, and are we getting the full amount of work for the retainer that we're paying? So given the serious nature of the questions, and as Alderman Morley suggested, a very serious allegation that our law firm would be overbilling us or somehow acting inappropriately, it might be prudent just to wait 2 weeks and give our staff some time to review this, just to make sure that we put to rest any suggestion that there's anything improper going on.
Thank you, Alderman Nybo. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you. I have been looking at, I look at all kinds of bills. It's a habit I have since I've been elected, and this is one of them, only because it's a lot of money, and I like to know who's getting what for what and why. And I have asked, I believe, at every accounts payable for reconciliation of the, I believe, $8,500 retainer fee, which is supposed to cover the first 50 hours of work. And I have never seen a reconciliation of the 50 hours. Every time I get the invoice, it starts from day one with a charge. And I have inquired about that, and I have yet to see the reconciliation on that, as Alderman York inquired about also. So I really appreciate Mr. Borchert looking into that so we could finally get an answer. That is one thing that I've been concerned with, because if someone's supposed to do 50 hours of work for X amount of dollars, I'd like to first see that laid out before any new charges come into play. So that would be very helpful. So thank you.
Alderman Pezza. Anybody else? Alderman Brown.
Thank you. When the motion was first made, I was not for it because I do understand in the previous council meeting 2 weeks ago offline, I spoke with our current city attorney to speak with the very topic because there was again charges in the accounts payable to our former city attorneys. With some of the questions that were asked in regards to the retainer, I think those are need to be resolved before we move forward. I would like to request that as part of the memorandum that City Manager Borchert stated that we do have a further breakout. It sounds like some of the aldermen up here have a detailed breakout of what the professional services charges are. It seems like a summary was given by our current city attorney, but I would definitely like to see that going forward before seeing another accounts payable before me and having our former city attorney on that. So I'm in full support of the motion because I think that we need to have all these questions resolved before making payment.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with both Alderman Nybo and Alderman Morley. I think it's paramount that we pay our bills timely, but I also agree that some allegations have been thrown out here about double billing, disrespectful. I think it's also imperative that we give the former city attorney the chance to explain his billing, how they're billing us. Are they are they giving us the first 50 hours? I've heard a couple aldermen say they don't think they are, since like Alderman Bram said, I don't have that information, so I'm not prepared to say yes or no, but I think it's important that we give the other party who's not here to defend himself the opportunity to do that, whether that's through city staff or in front of the whole council. So reluctantly, I will support the motion, and think we need to move very quickly so that the $26,000 can be explained, and that if it is true that we own the money, that we pay them post haste. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Healy. Anybody else? Okay. With that, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, and this would be to, again, approve the accounts payable minus the attorney.
It was 0000331.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
Until further review from mayor, manager, attorney.
So you'll want to state it real quick, just so everybody's clear on what we're doing?
What I heard Alderman Shea move was to accept the accounts payable minus the line number 0000331 and not pay that until further review and report back to council from city attorney, city manager, and mayor.
Correct.
All righty. And at this point, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll up. One more question.
Just a clarification. So a no vote is, pardon me, a yes vote is not to pay?
Is not to pay and review for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
3 weeks.
3 weeks? Gotcha. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? At this point, is Alderman Healy.
So our next meeting would be 3 weeks. Since it appears that we may have a committee of the whole meeting next week, would this be something we could look at next week? Because I think, to Alderman Morley's point, if we own the money, we own the money. Let's get to the bottom and move on. I think we can do that in a week. I wouldn't want to put the 3 weeks in the motion. If we can get it done in a week, let's get it done in a week.
You can do that.
It wasn't in the motion.
Well,
The time was not in Alderman Shea's motion. Actually, that was Alderman Nybo who suggested the 2 weeks. She did not indicate a time in her motion.
As soon as they get it.
So the motion has no time bearing, but we will try and move this swiftly and ideally post a special meeting for next week so that we can get this taken care of. Thank you, Alderman Healy. Anybody else? I'm going to ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Shea,
Aye.
Gudenkauf,
Aye.
Pezza,
Aye.
Leader,
Nay.
Rose, absent, Bram,
Aye.
Hipskin,
Nay.
York,
Nay.
Nybo,
Aye.
Healy,
Aye.
Morley,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Mulliner,
No.
Wagner.
Nay.
8 ayes and 5 nays and 1 absent.
Okay, eight ayes, 5 nays, 1 absent. The motion does pass to table that. And going to item E, Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a deferment back to committee. There's some issues on the report versus what we had thought the report should have said, and it's translated into the ordinance. And I just
Okay.
want to make sure that we don't sign the ordinance today.
Okay, very good. So we are, Alderman Wagner is asking to motion this particular ordinance to committee, back to committee. And do we have a second on that?
I will second the motion, but may I ask for a clarification of the motion? Can we just defer this ordinance to our next meeting in its current form? And then if we want to, our committee could choose to reconsider the report. Would that make sense? Because then we can keep it on the agenda?
Sure.
Okay. Then I would second the motion with that clarification.
Okay, all right.
I didn't get that.
So we have a motion.
Repeat that. I didn't
We're just
get
going to
it.
defer it to our next meeting, defer this item to our next meeting.
In effect, table to the next regular council meeting, or defer to the next council meeting.
Better said.
Council meeting, not committee.
Council meeting. There's actually no discussion on a motion to defer or table, so a voice vote would be appropriate.
Okay. At this point, a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, That motion to table passes unanimously. And item I, Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first off, the agenda includes an update on the parking deck construction, and I wonder if this resolution shouldn't be addressed after we've gotten the update on the parking deck. I don't know what the update's going to include, and I should think that it might include information pertinent to our discussion of this resolution of this contract.
Okay. City Manager Borsch.
If you like, I was going to do a quick update as to where that project is at. I would do that now if, Your Honor, you would wish.
Sure.
Proceeding then.
Point of order, do we need a motion to change up the agenda?
You just need a motion to suspend your rules, moved and seconded, and voice vote, because your rules do say that you're supposed to take the items that come off the consent agenda in that order, so you just move to suspend your rules.
Can't ask for a motion to suspend rules. Alderman Morley, second by Alderman Mulliner. All in favor by voice?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. And City Manager Borchard.
Yes, I wish to provide under the manager's report a number of updates. I will do the brief update as to the status of the First Street parking garage at this time. And that was to advise that the first phase of work, which has previously been authorized and contracted for by the City Council relative to the first phases of work, the building demolition, the environmental reviews, and site clearance is continuing on. If you recall, that was to identify the potential of environmental issues. The city's contract to purchase that property did provide for a $100,000 component for environmental work, should there be environmental work necessary for cleanup. And in that regard, we needed to make a claim for that work within a certain period of time after closing. I believe that date is some date later this week. I wish to advise the council that the city has, in fact, through the consulting arrangement with Arco Murray, identified 6 buried tanks, 3 heating oil tanks, 2 mineral spirits tanks, and 1 gasoline tank as at least best identified from those making a field observation. Testing Service Corporation, under contract to do this environmental work for the city, has taken samples of those tanks and will determine after a 1 week or so laboratory test exactly what is in those 6 tanks. The good news is those tanks are very small, and they were all within the footprint of the building, so they're within the area that is inside of the foundation walls of that structure. Heating oil, mineral spirits, and gasoline, at least what we're familiar with, all float on water. Therefore, the potential of environmental issues below other parts of the property seem minimal. That's good news. The other news is that, again, this work has been identified as needed and necessary to proceed. We've received 2 proposals for the actual removal of the tanks. Those are in a vicinity of about $11,000 in total to remove the 5 tanks. Until those tanks are removed, there's no knowledge as to what dirty dirt, to coin the phrase, may be there, it may be necessary to be removed or not. That'll be the next phase of investigation. Good news is there's a $100,000 escrow account. City has to match any use of that, but that does diminish the city's expenditures regarding the environmental remediation, and I wish to assure the council and the broader community that it will be cleaned up properly prior to the other work proceeding. In that regard, the other work proceeding, the invitation for bids has been posted, and bids for the first wave of contracted for work after due bid process and evaluation is out. That is for specifically the next critical area of work to be completed, and that is the precast concrete production work. Those bids will be due back to the city clerk's office by 2 p.m. on Tuesday, September 1st. There'll be an evaluation of those bids. The low bidder meeting qualifications will be authorized to go forward. We'll write a contract with that subcontractor, and ideally, again, move forward with the project such that foundation work can be completed this fall and the precast concrete work completed during the winter, and take advantage of the attractive market for these types of construction projects at this time. That was my report.
Thank you, City Manager Borchert, and just want to add that our due diligence in making sure that we got the first stage of this done in a timely fashion, where we technically had to do a no bid, even though we did bid out all of the subcontractors that are engaged in this process, was imperative that we discovered this, and sure enough, there is an issue. So if we had pushed this off, we would possibly be in a position to forfeit those dollars. So kudos to the board for getting this done. I appreciate the expediency there. And Alderman Gutenkopf, your questions answered?
No, I have a couple more, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My first question concerns the project budget, which is addressed on page 7 of the agreement, and there is no budget attached to this. I wonder if we're going to have a copy of the budget provided to us, and specifically I'd like to know if we're going to be paying extra for winter conditions, as we know some of this construction's going to have to start now and finish up in the spring to meet the June deadline to have the project wrapped up.
I would look to our city manager on that issue. I believe there's a maximum cap on general conditions, but I'll let the city manager give that detailed.
This is the resolution which would authorize the design-build contract. As this is anticipated to be approved, if it's approved, as things go forward, bids will be received through the process, and those bids will be brought back to the Public Works Committee and then to the City Council for approval. Questions of a relook at the estimate of the construction cost. Again, should this ultimate agreement with the design and the build with Arco Murray and the architect, with this thing approved, Arco Murray and the architect will finish the design and finish the estimates, which have been done in a preliminary fashion but not in a final fashion, waiting for the actual authorization to proceed. With that done, yes, certainly there'll be a final estimate of construction cost, and you could look at that as you are reviewing the bids that will be reviewed and then subsequently considered for approval. This is for the design to be completed, and then for Arco Murray to be in a position to construction manage the subcontractors after they are identified.
Thank you, City Manager Borchert. Anybody else?
Yeah. Well,
Alderman Gutenkopf, go ahead.
A couple more, if I may.
Sure.
Point of order, are we finished with the update? And should we go back to the agenda? Because it appears that Alderman Gutenkopf wants to discuss the resolution at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Morley. We will now go back to the resolution. Actually, just to avoid any confusion, I'll ask Clerk Spencer to read the resolution real quick, and then we can discuss. I'll ask for a motion and a second. Correct.
A resolution authorizing the execution of a design-build contract between the City of Elmhurst, Illinois, and Arco Murray National Construction Company, Inc. for the First Street Parking Deck Site, 175 West First Street, Elmhurst, Illinois.
Very good. Now I ask for a motion and a second, please, on this. Alderman Gutenkopf with the motion, second by Alderman Mulliner. Discussion. Alderman Gutenkopf, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, page 10 of the agreement discusses the bidding phrase, and I just want to reiterate that these are going to be published public bids, and that this will be open, and I just want to reiterate that issue. My next question is on page 36.
I also want to make, this was always going to be a published bid process, so that was from the get-go. It's published in the paper. This was a 100% subcontracted, purely bidded out right here at City Hall, sealed bids in front of Clerk Spencer, in front of me,
Eye-opener.
to make sure we get the best deal. Thank you. Go ahead.
Page 36 is where section 12 starts, and there's a article that addresses liquidated damages, but there's not a schedule of these damages attached. Isn't it typical to include a schedule for what these damages would be, what our expectation would be that we'd recoup in the event of these damages? Is that not typically attached to a contract like this?
You kind of lost me there, Diana.
Page 36, Article 12, under contract time, includes definitions of liquidated damages. And my question is it not typical to include a schedule of exactly what those damages would be?
I refer that to our city attorney.
And it's a great question. You have to look at, and it's not available to you to look at, but you'd have to look at the general conditions, Article 108.11, which unfortunately I do not have available. But in fact, in the general conditions, under that section, there is a schedule of the liquidated damages. And I'll provide it to you and email it to you.
Thank you. And then my final concern relates to the management of stormwater on this site. That it's something I brought up at the design review meeting, and I'm concerned that there is nothing in the resolution and the contract that addresses the management of stormwater. I'm concerned because I believe the site is under an acre in size, and it's also in the downtown. And I know that we have discussed meeting the county's best management practices in regard to stormwater, but I'm not entirely sure that they legally apply here, and that without including language specific to this management of stormwater in this contract, that we have no recourse and no assurance that the design will handle the stormwater in the best possible way. Elmhurst has spent a lot of time and effort identifying itself as a cool city and looking at sustainability and environmental initiatives. Stormwater management, and pollutants that are carried in stormwater are a major component of this. And I am chagrined that we have not taken this opportunity to be extremely proactive about how we're going to manage stormwater on this site.
City Manager Borchard.
Yes, as Alderman Gutenkopf related, she did bring this up at the information meeting, and since that information meeting, Mr. Hughes and I have talked specifically about what needs to be provided with the stormwater design of the development of the parking structure, and I believe the contract before the council this evening does require that the design meet all applicable rules and regulations of the city and of the state and of whatever jurisdiction would have rules and regulations. So Arco Murray and their architect are obligated to provide a design that meets those criteria. Over and above that, Mr. Hughes and I have discussed what perhaps might be a emerging best management practice, but not yet a requirement, to determine if any of those emerging best management practices or other opportunities would be a good application for this site. And he intends to review that with the architect, and then as we go forward with our discussions with the Public Works Committee, review that with the Public Works Committee, and then as appropriate with the full City Council. There is that constructive tension between expending design and construction dollars on a not required component. What's the benefit of that versus the expense of that? And we'll provide those general parameters and let the committee and the council decide on what you would wish to perhaps consider doing as Alderman Gutenkopf identifies. I think Elmhurst is a leader in the area of stormwater management and certainly Salt Creek flood control measures, and need to be on as many areas as we possibly can be. So we'll report as to the over and above opportunities to the committee and to the council.
We have a follow-up?
Alderman Gutenkopf.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager Borchard. I appreciate that. I did note that the agreement requires the design to follow all of the applicable rules and regulations, but I do think we need to be very cognizant of the fact that we may hear them talk about meeting the county regulations, but I don't believe the county regulations necessarily apply, which means that they're not under obligation to meet them. And so I think we have to figure out a way to be proactive. This isn't just about Salt Creek flooding. This really is about pollution and runoff and figuring out ways not to overtax our storm sewer system. And if we are building a new impermeable surface, we have a golden opportunity to improve how the stormwater is treated on this site, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't take advantage of that opportunity.
Thank you, Alderman Gutenkopf. Any other discussion? Alderman Nybo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, stormwater is a hugely important issue, and I agree with Alderman Gutenkopf. I'm quite unfamiliar with what she's talking about. Maybe she can elaborate. Can she explain why the county ordinance might not apply in this situation? I'm not aware of that. And the second point I'd like to make is this is not our only bite at the apple with respect to stormwater. I mean, through the permitting process that the developer is going to have to go through, I would imagine if there are stormwater issues, not that I imagine, I know that if there are stormwater issues that need to be addressed, they're considered at the permitting process stage. Aren't they, City Manager Borchard?
Yep, yes, they are.
So, I mean, this is not our one occasion to address stormwater issues. They're going to have to come in with a permit application, and if there are stormwater obligations that they need to meet, they're going to have to meet them. But perhaps you could talk about why the ordinance may not apply in this situation.
The DuPage County ordinance certainly applies, but there is different levels, and Alderman Gutenkopf has referred to that. The larger the site, it does trigger additional duties and responsibilities in the design. Greater than an acre requires on-site detention. Under an acre, that's not required. That might be what provides an opportunity. We already know that the stormwater release is going to be less water going off the site than existing, because existing, it's almost lot line to lot line asphalt or roof. What's proposed is a significant amount of parkland like property, a pocket park, if you will, with the ability to take Larch Avenue and put it into some transition open space, and the far east side of the private property site is going to be grass and landscaping. So there'll be less water running off the site after construction than before. I don't believe that stormwater on-site detention would be a requirement. There might be an ability to actually store stormwater on-site. We'll look at that. We'll identify for the Public Works Committee, the City Council, what might be possible and what it would cost, and what the benefits might be or might not be to provide on-site stormwater detention. I think that's what Alderman Gutenkopf is referring to, and Mr. Hughes and I have chatted about that, and we'll bring that information after we sort out the details and have some work done by the design team on those matters. We'll report back to the Public Works Committee and then on to the City Council. The contract, however, relative to what is before the Council tonight for your consideration is the actual authorization to allow the mayor and the clerk to sign the contract document that has Arco Murray and the architectural firm then under contract to do the work. To do that design.
Alderman Nabel?
Small follow-up. Thank you, Mayor. I mean, words matter. The press is out here reporting on our proceedings as they do nearly every meeting, and I understood Alderman Gutenkopf's comment to be that the stormwater ordinance doesn't apply in this situation, but a more correct characterization of the situation is that the stormwater ordinance applies as it does to every situation, but that the ordinance may not require additional stormwater modifications or certain responsibilities be adhered to. I think that's important because the stormwater ordinance exists and it imposes requirements in situations where additional work is needed, and where additional work is not needed under the ordinance, it doesn't require additional work. So the ordinance applies, but it may not require certain things that we would like to see happen on this site.
Thanks, Alderman Nybo. Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Alderman Nybo, for translating me so inaccurately. I appreciate it. My point is simply that we have an opportunity to be forward-thinking and proactive about stormwater. The most proactive county regulations about managing stormwater do not apply because this site is under the size that triggers the regulation to contain the stormwater. If we add in the pocket park, and if I heard the city manager right, he's now considering this potential green space to be counted as part of this overall project. I don't know if we're approaching an acre or not, but we either count it or we don't. I mean, we either say that the Hurley property was a parking lot and a building and now it's just going to be a parking lot, or we say we've expanded this whole project to include the green space, at which point we may trigger the 1 acre size. I don't know how big this piece of park is going to be once we add it in. So it's either one or the other. And if it's not included, then we're not managing, then we're not looking at less stormwater or more pervious surface. We're still talking about the same amount of impervious surface we always were. We just need to improve the way that we're handling this water. Every time we build a new project, we should be cognizant of this. It's our opportunity to say that we're finally doing something right. So I just want to make sure that we're doing it, and it sounds like we're going to have these discussions with the developer, and that's a very good thing. And I'm anxious to hear back what comes of it.
Alderman Nybo?
To the body, I did not mean to disrespect Alderman Gutenkopf. As with each of you that makes a comment on this dais, I try to understand exactly what you're saying, and for that reason, I actually asked Alderman Gutenkopf to clarify or expound upon what she meant by the statement about stormwater. So I didn't mean to disrespect. I took it one way. I think some of us may have been a little confused. I think based on what I heard, some members of the public and perhaps even the press might have been a little confused as to the point that Alderman Gutenkopf was trying to make. So, again, I mean no disrespect. I really was just trying to understand the point she was making because I think it's a very important point, and I appreciate her clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Anybody else? And keep in mind, we're approving a design-build contract with this resolution, so there'll be plenty of opportunities to nip stormwater at permitting, as Mr. Nybo pointed out, and this is already going to be built to code with infrastructure in place. So, but we will do our best to go above and beyond as we always do. Anybody else? All right. At this point, I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll on the resolution, please.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Morley.
I don't think
I second.
It was
Was
Mulliner.
Oh, I thought, I couldn't
Mulliner.
hear. Speak up.
I second.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we go to Pezza.
No.
Shea.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose absent. Bram.
No.
Hipskin.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
9 ayes, 4 nays. Wait. Yeah. 9 ayes, 4 nays, 1 absent.
9 ayes, 4 nays, 1 absent. That resolution does pass.
Point of order. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the resolution did not pass.
Pardon me?
What was that?
I don't believe this resolution passed, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I believe we need a 2/3 vote.
I would defer that to our city attorney.
What Alderman Gutenkopf is appropriately pointing out is that, you know, if we're waiving bid, you would need to do that. But we've given the opinion that this is a professional services agreement, which wouldn't require the super majority required by 2/3, because we're and effectively, these are, you know, I've opined that these are professional services, and as such, you don't need to waive the bid with respect to Arco Murray.
Okay.
But the resolution specifically says in section 5, which is the second page of the actual resolution, this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its passage and approval by a 2/3 vote of all aldermen now holding office in accordance with law.
That is my bad. And that's a Scribner's error. It does not need 2/3, and I'll strike that. Apologize. It's on me.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification, City Attorney Storino. That motion does pass. And we will now go on to reports and recommendations of elected officials, updates from myself. One thing I wanted to mention is I will be taking Mayor Marcucci's spot on the DuPage County Flood Commission, which we talked about flooding. And so actually, I along with City Manager Borchert, and actually Mike Hughes, the Director of Public Works, has been attending those meetings for the last several months. That commission is made up of a variety of county board members and 2 DuPage County mayors. So I will be one of the 2 mayors on that commission to fend for Elmhurst. The new flood map that is being proposed by the county does put many of our homes, about 1,200 to 1,400 homes, back in the floodplain that were taken out after millions and millions of dollars is spent on infrastructure. So I'm looking forward to this challenge. I think our building codes are strict in Elmhurst, and we are going to make sure that we enforce those and build the right way, which we have been. But this new engineering study that unfortunately takes a lot of the good things that we've done, like purchase the quarry and put all this infrastructure in place, and it almost reverts it to us to our position being in a worse position than prior to us, along with other municipalities engaging in purchasing along with the county the quarry. So I will be looking to do what I can to get this map rectified, along with staff assistance, and I appreciate our previous mayor continuing to serve until I'm able to take the reins. We wanted to show a nice smooth handoff with this process because Elmhurst is directly affected. We've got several large commercial pieces of property which are very vulnerable and would really impair economic development in this community, which not only is a bad thing, the new map, but it puts us in a very vulnerable residential and commercial situation. So, and given that we've had many tests, unfortunately we've seen what bad weather can do with trees going down, et cetera, but that creek has stayed in the creek, fortunately, and proven over many years now that it's been an effective infrastructure. So I look forward to taking on the challenge and making sure we have somebody defending for Elmhurst. Updates from our city manager, Borchert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, I wish to report on a rather significant refunding of the Series 2001 General Obligation Bond, which was authorized by City Council's action at the last meeting. Ms. Gaston and her team have done a very wonderful job, as they always do. Her memorandum is complete. I believe a copy of that has been distributed to the City Council. For those who did not get a copy or maybe reviewing this, the refunding was for $3.7 million. It was negotiated and was purchased by Robert W. Baird and Company, a negotiated sale today. Targeted present value savings was identified between $100,000 and $140,000. What actually was achieved was more than that, specifically $155,000, savings rate of 4.24%, and after expenses, the city's beneficial outcome is approximately $75,000. Most of that will be taken with dollars received next fiscal year. As Marilyn Gaston says, it was a great refunding for the city of Elmhurst, and Standard & Poor's has restated their previous evaluation of the city of Elmhurst's position with a AA+, which is a very, very, very solid financial rating, and I think reflects highly on this mayor and this city council, even in these difficult economic times, as Standard & Poor's has taken a fresh look at where Elmhurst is at, along with the rest of the Chicago metropolitan area, and restated their very solid rating, which then results in a significant savings for the city of Elmhurst with this opportunity. So that's good news. Second item is the fire station construction project. It's a project that has been a long journey, if you will. The facility study on this assignment was begun back in 2007. Through a lot of reviews and evaluation, Chief Kopp, his able team, along with some collaboration with the Public Works Department, and then consulting services of architectural teams and McHugh Construction, the project has been built. It's nearly complete. It is a big building, bigger than the old building, but again would state that the original building had 3 firefighters per shift in that building, and 1 engine staff there for about very, very limited fire calls and even not that many paramedic calls. And no female quarters were in that original building. Building today will house an engine, a truck, an ambulance, and 9 firefighters are assigned to that building every day, and there are private, appropriate female quarters being provided. McHugh Construction is part of the team identified, and the council identified and approved budget. That budget is at $6 million for the total project, including site acquisition from the Park District and the railroad, and all professional fees, was at $6.7 million. The project is projected to be completed at about $6.3 million, approximately $450,000 under what was the project amount, and on time. The City Council did ask that we seek LEEDs certification, which is a architectural assignment for environmental design and construction. Upon completion of the project, the LEEDs material will be submitted. All documentation has been completed during the construction project. We anticipate receiving a LEED certification. Fingers crossed, perhaps we'll get into the silver category, but we do anticipate at a minimum receiving a LEED certification for the project. We're on track to receive a $75,000 Illinois Clean Energy grant. Is one of the items for the community to understand that it's not just talking the talk of environmental issue, but walking the walk with actually designing and building and completing a construction project in that regard, which allows the Illinois Clean Energy Grant to be a real opportunity. The community will be invited, and I would include this as an invitation to the broader community to an open house in conjunction with Fire Prevention Week, which begins October 4th. On that day, from noon to 4 p.m., the fire department will be open as an open house, and the building itself will be dedicated September 24th with a ceremony beginning at about 5:30. Invitations will be sent out. Certainly, the community is invited to that ceremony, September 24th. But more significantly, open house October 4th, the kickoff of Fire Prevention Week. End of reports, Mr. Mayor.
A question, City Manager Borcher. When, with the timeline as it stands now, when would we expect the old building to come down?
My understanding is within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Good. Alderman Wagner?
I just wanted to add to what City Manager Borchert had already commented on. I had just stopped by the new building. It's unbelievable. It's extremely eco-friendly. It really is an impressive building. After watching it go up over the last 12, 16 months, they've done a phenomenal job. McHugh Construction needs to come in under budget and on time. That's pretty rare nowadays, so that they need to be commended for that, and also be thought of a little bit differently for future projects down the road. But I recommend everybody, if you get a chance, just to stop in. Appointment's not necessary. I think it's an unbelievable building. It's going to be a beacon for the south side of the city, and I think it's a great place. I'm really happy with it, so nice job.
Thank you, Alderman Wagner. And kudos to staff and to McHugh and to all the subs that put that together. See Fire Chief Cap out in the audience. He's watched that go up just about every day. So kudos to making sure that you keep those contractors in line. And many people ask why do we use some of the contractors on a regular basis? Well, when you do a good job, you come in under budget and on time. It makes sense to work with people that do that. So I think it's important for us to realize that we want to be loyal to people. We also want to make sure we're getting a good value too. But when we've got proven experience with these projects, high school, we've seen that with many of the capital projects in this town, things have gone well. So our track record means a lot. So anybody else? City Manager Borchert, thank you for your reports. And next, other business. Anybody for other business? Alderman Brown.
Yes, thank you. We received on the dais today, I believe, yes, a mayor from your, a letter is getting late. A letter from yourself, Mayor, in regards to the invitation for bids. I think it was in response to a resident. My question, and I think this is directed at the city manager, how are we going out for bids when we, as the city council, have not seen and approved? We might have gotten a glimpse of the proposed design, but approved the design, so therefore, how do we know what the parking deck is ultimately going to be like, and therefore, which, to my understanding, the precast concrete package is pretty much the parking garage. So how are we soliciting bids when we don't know ultimately the design of the garage itself?
City Manager Borchert, I'll let you answer that, but I can add to that as well. Go ahead.
Well, there is some concurrent activity, and Alderman Bram, you're pointing it out. Just tonight has the contract been authorized to proceed with the final architectural plans. However, there is also the direction of move forward in a reasonable fashion, if at all possible, to get this project under bid through proper bidding process in today's market. What's going out to bid is the precast concrete material. The architect at the same time is finishing the aesthetic looks, aesthetic features, and following off of that would be the very detailed architectural plans that are then part of the bid package. Monday's Public Works Committee would have this item with the issue of the design for the Public Works Committee. We'll be seeking the Public Works Committee's input, and then a general report to go to the City Council that would approve that to go forward and get, as you point out, the City Council actual concurrence in the concept and what that concept looks like. We've always articulated that the intent was to maximize the public parking on that site within the zoning code parameters. In that regard, that's what's been preliminarily designed. That's what's been shown to the community, the stakeholders, the city center, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Larch Avenue neighbors. Positive feedback has been received from those stakeholders, and I have not heard contrary concerns from the City Council relative to notion of proceeding with the parking structure. So from that perspective, we are taking the chance and having the interested community begin the bid process. We'll have the committee meeting, and we'll have certainly have a city council meeting to consider what the Public Works Committee's thoughts are well before any bids will be received, and certainly before any bids would be approved on the project.
Follow up?
Alderman Brown, yeah.
With that said, depending on discussions and the recommendation from the Public Works Committee, as well as the end result of the majority of the council, it could significantly change this piece of the puzzle, and therefore we'd have to rebid anyway. So to me, it sounds like we're, I guess, fast-tracking it a little bit too quick from the standpoint of we might have to go out for bid again if the desire of the majority of the council says otherwise from what we've already seen, the prelim drawings. So that is my concern. I mean, I know that we've seen preliminary drawings. As you stated, we will be seeing them in committee in the upcoming week. But it sounds like the preliminary drawings are almost being conceived as final drawings by allowing a pre-bid conference on August 19th, which is this week, before committee even discusses design and therefore council even discusses design. It could change, and I'm not saying this would happen, but if the majority of the council decided that there's additional floors needed for the parking garage, this bid process could change. If it was a different shape, if it was smaller. I mean, there's a lot of things that would go into it that I would think that at least this piece of the puzzle could significantly change.
It's certainly in the area of possibility. Again, my judgment is that possibility, if it happens, we will have to adjust and react. The precast concrete is the kind of the erector set of the concretes necessary to get the parking within that envelope of zoning approval, zoning use for a parking structure. So if we continue on that track, we're on the right track with the design. If there's a reconsideration of that by the city council, then we may have to do some things a second time.
And, you know, one thing I wanted to add as well is this has been a public-private relationship from the get-go, so the design has been underway with the public, and actually some of the aldermen have been going to those meetings, and I appreciate that, Alderman Pezza and Gutenkopf going to those meetings. We've got the neighborhood very happy, and we're within zoning restraints, we're within height restraints, without having to go for any type of special things. So the idea of this substantially changing, I think, is minimal. So that's where I think, in layman's terms, what we're talking about here.
Follow up?
Yeah.
In all due respect, Mayor, but it really takes the buy-in from the full city council, not just the immediate ward that is affected in this case. And this isn't a new story for me that I'm singing here tonight. I've been asking to see the committee as well as the council to see the design before we get too far down the road. We haven't taken those measures to get there, and we're halfway home before what I would consider typical procedure has happened. So I want to just make those comments public that, again, I'm just reciting the same story that I would have liked to seen it go in what I would deem the appropriate order of having this vetted by committee as well as council before kicking off bids.
Alderman Nybo, and I'll go to Alderman Pezza.
Well, I just want to compliment the city staff on this. I mean, I can only speak from the perspective of my residents, or my constituents, excuse me, in the 5th Ward. And most of the constituents in the 5th Ward want us to move as expeditiously as we can and as quickly as we can within a measure of responsibility and reason to get this project moving. And so anything that gets this project moving, I think we should move forward with. So if we can expedite a process, I think we should, as long as we're not sacrificing anything. And from my perspective, we're not. My constituents want these parking decks up.
And one of the reasons we were fast-tracking this is a $30 billion plus capital bill was passed for the first time in 9 years. So that means next spring, the amount of construction projects going on will be a lot more than what are going on currently. So the buying ability that we have right now with subcontractors, et cetera, is ripe for the picking. So, and we are bidding those out, and we're going to get the best possible prices, and we're going to get it done. So, Alderman Tezzer.
Thank you. I have just two main concerns. Number one, even though I think we should all approve of the design, for me, I was most concerned with the bidding and the cost to the taxpayer. I think it's pertinent that the residents approve of the design. They're the ones, especially the immediate residents, they have to look at it in their face 24/7, so I think that's very important. And I guess the other part, maybe for Mr. Borchert, I would be concerned with if we put it out for bid and then something were to change, is there a cost involved in going back out for bid? That would be my concern, I guess, in that regard.
To that, there's not. There's a very specific contract for design build, and that design build does roll from a construction cost. So the advantage is to get this bid in the most optimum market, which I believe is, and our advisors are saying is now, not even late fall for winter or early next spring. In that everything will roll forward off of the low bids, low qualified bids, low contracted for bids, and then the total actual construction cost. Fees are generated per the agreement, per the contract, off of that. So we're benefited as a community, and with better fees for the professional services, the lower the construction cost is, and we're attempting to get the lowest possible bids for those components of construction. If we've got to do anything twice on the design side or the architectural side or the construction management side, that's all. They don't get paid twice, they get paid once.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderman
I
Kennedy.
was just going to add, John Wooden, the Hall of Fame coach, said, "Be quick, don't be fast." And I think what we're talking about here is doing things in concurrency and being efficient. If we have to stop the process at some point and say we're going to make a change, we're certainly going to do that. But to your point, we need to move quickly and do this in an efficient manner. If we have to stop, we stop.
Right, yeah. And again, Metro has told us we are at capacity. We are basically at 99% capacity for our commuter parking right now. So they recognize a need,
Sure.
And that's a huge thing too. That's important for us to realize that that's, we're not sitting here with no parking issues, and that's why we're talking about putting decks up. So, yes.
You prompted me to think of another question constituents have been asking me, and I don't know the answer. Perhaps Mr. Borchert could answer. Since we are receiving money, I believe, from Metro, is that correct?
We're working on a grant along with Senator Pancallan.
Would that restrict X amount of spaces for commuters only in that garage?
Yes. Yes, it would. Yes, I'm sorry, City Manager.
We are doing everything we can as a community, as a mayor, as a manager, and as design staff to work with Mr. Phil Pagano and his Metro staff to keep open the opportunity for a Metro grant. If there is a Metro grant, there will be strings to that dollars, which will require that there'll be commuter parking. They'll only pay for commuter parking. They will not pay for Elmhurst shopper parking, and they won't pay for any set-asides of that parking structure for downtown Elmhurst parking. The parking structure is potentially, and as preliminarily designed, large enough that it will accommodate all of the commuter spaces that Metro has potential for to provide a financial grant to. We're still working with them on that grant. We're doing everything we can to provide them the opportunity to do the right thing, which is to give Elmhurst a grant. It remains to be seen if they do that.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Alderman Healy.
Question unrelated to parking decks. Cash for clunkers, a lot of press, a lot of cars being moved. Do we have any indication or any idea of what that's meant for Elmhurst and our dealerships?
Not yet from the dealers. We've had some feedback that there is a lot more activity on Grand Avenue and on Lake Street and on York Street in that regard. Mr. Sed's group will be actually attempting to quantify that in a orderly fashion by interviewing our Elmhurst dealers.
Thank you.
Early indication is that Elmhurst dealers have benefited.
Thank you, Alderman Healy. Anybody else on other business here? Alderman Pezza.
Just a quick thank you from constituents. Speaking of all this flooding issue, I know there were many residents who were affected, and they've been very, very patient, but also I've been getting emails saying thank you. They're like, hooray, someone finally came, and we're getting this resolved. So I want to extend that thank you to the city manager and Mike Hughes and the Public Works Department. I know they've been working hard, and the people do appreciate it, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Pezza. It's good to point out we do have some pockets in town that have issues, and these people are naturally burdened by that, and we're doing whatever we can, and staff is doing a great job, and we'll continue to be on that. So, Alderman York.
Yeah, as a result of the, thank you, Mayor, result of the financial task force, I think, I know I've been getting a lot of phone calls from constituents and stuff like that asking about, what the city's doing with regard to finance, and their last regular meeting we had 2 weeks ago, I meant to, kind of let everybody on the dais know, first of all, like to give kudos to Public Works and Building Committee. We had contracts that were budgeted for $257,000 last 2 weeks ago that we said okay to, and we actually realized a savings of about $54,000 on those 257. So I think it goes to the point Mr. Borchert was making, that we're in a really good time now to get a good value for our dollar, along with the hard work that our committees do. But I just want the residents, everybody, to know that we're working hard up here to really make sure that we scrutinize every penny that we're looking at, and this is very important to the people, that they understand this. So I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, and kind of bringing to recognition that we're working hard up here to save the dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman York. Anybody else? Alderman Wager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few more minutes, unrelated to anything that we've discussed so far. A quick update. I don't know if I'm in announcements or other business at the moment, but I'd like to congratulate Alderman Healy and Alderman Nybo and their efforts to make sure that the Park District, the City of Elmhurst, and the County of DuPage all worked together for the Prairie Path and the reconstruction. There were some changes that have been made over the last week or so, and it looks like that project should be completed by the 24th of August, which is not, it's about a week after they wanted to have it done, but big thank you to Jeff Reddick for all his efforts with the county board and stuff like that. So I just wanted to publicly give a thank you to them. Everything's on track, and it's going to come out looking very, very nice. It'll be a nice four-way stop there, and safety will certainly be increased.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe what you're referring to is the crossing there at Berkeley. Yeah. So and we know that's an issue, and that's a lot of traffic issues getting resolved. I noticed a lot of yield signs going up since we've been on the dais, and a lot of stop signs, and also issues like this. So kudos to our public affairs and safety people, our county board people working together, Park District working together. That's what it's all about. So great job, guys. Anybody else? All right. I will give a couple plugs as well too on announcements. ECAF had their Friend of the Children golf outing, and just so everybody knows, the Elmhurst Children's Assistance Foundation, now that I am mayor, I'm also the proud honorary chairman. It's a local charity, grassroots charity, started back in the early 90s to help local families with kids with disabilities, kids with a life-threatening condition, where there's a financial need. We buy wheelchairs, we buy therapies, speech therapy, OT, kids with autism, CP, cancer, you name it, they see it. And I had the pleasure of going to gavel with that group for 5 of the 10 years I served as director. And, they had a successful golf outing honoring Guy Maniscalco, local guy, Elmhurst College grad, and owns Car Star here in Elmhurst, very philanthropic gentleman that ironically has a son that was diagnosed with autism after many years of help. So Alderman Nybo, I believe Alderman Morley attended that event, and it's nice to see our council people actually at these community events and engaged. I saw Alderman Pez at the City Center event a couple weeks ago, and it was nice to see we've got a good, vibrant board that's out there and committed to helping the various civic causes that we have. Also wanted to mention on an ECAF note that September 12th is their auction of the rain barrels. We always done kitty cars and different art events. This year they're doing rain barrels to be environmentally friendly. That will be at the Diplomat West on Saturday, September 12th. I encourage all of us, if we could attend, that would be a great thing. Also, ironically, the same night is the hospital dinner. So for those of us that are committed to the hospital, I may be wearing 2 hats and going to both. But something that I think we should know about. That I believe is downtown at the Westin. And the next day is a special event that I've been very active with. It's our 2nd annual Brianna and Friends Walk the Talk. And 97 kids in Elmhurst have autism. It's the #1 medical condition affecting kids in this town. It affects me personally, my daughter Brianna, who bears the name of the insurance bill that passed last year, and which our Senator Cronin was chief co-sponsor of, and Representative Rebelletti, Representative Biggins, and also Senator Pankow, another chief co-sponsor. So we had local support to bring that home for our kids. We're doing a walk for CSLD, which is a local group that helps kids with autism right here in Elmhurst, a nonprofit 501c3 at Barron's Park on that Sunday at 10 o'clock. So I encourage the public to come out and support a great cause. 2 great causes that are Elmhurst-based, grassroots, and serve our families, and a lot of them. And unfortunately, when you get the card, it's nice to have resources in our community that help out. So that is on the 13th at 10 o'clock at Barron's Park, and also compliments to our Park District for helping out with that, and Rich Gradsky and that whole crew that does a great job. Danny Gibbons is director of that walk as well. So hearing nothing else as far as announcements, I see the City Manager Borchert with a hand up.
Just quick, I'd like to, I believe the City Council has been provided a copy of the notice from the Governmental Finance Officers Association, but I would wish to publicly thank Marilyn Gaston and Assistant Finance Director Tom Trozine for the excellent work they've completed in last year's City of Elmhurst budget document. It was recognized and identified by the Governmental Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for their highest award of distinguished budget presentation. Elmhurst is in rare company with only slightly over 1,100 other jurisdictions in all of the United States and Canada receiving such designation. So good work done again by the Elmhurst staff, and would not be possible without Marilyn Gaston's help and Tom Trozine. And it does allow all of the staff a better document to work with going forward as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and maybe for the mayor and the city council as well as a communications device. So we use it on a regular basis, and it's been recognized as very well done. Thank you to them.
Thank you, City Manager Borchert. So we have recognition there on a financial basis as well as an excellent credit rating. I think we should all be proud of ourselves. Even though these are tough times, we're still doing the business of the people. We're doing it the right way. We've got great staff. I'd also like to ask us to keep Marilyn Gaston in our prayers because she lost her mom a couple weeks ago, and that's tough stuff. But she's a great lady, and she's done a lot of hard work for this community. So I ask us to do that. Anybody else for announcements? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Morley, Alderman Wagner. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.